Hello and welcome to Elecspo, and Football Manager 2022 is out, kind of. The beta version's out at least. I hope you're all enjoying your Newcastle save where you splash that Saudi cash, because we all know that's what pretty much everyone's going to be doing. But today I'm going to go 10 years into the future and I want to see exactly what the Premier League table looks like in the summer of 2031. Let's dive into the simulation and see who finished where 10 years into the future. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and brace yourself for a plethora of Football Manager 2022 experiments. Let's go with the first. Right, here we are for our first Football Manager 2022 simulation. We have gone 10 years into the future. It is the summer of 2031. We are here in the beta version, and as you can see, Liverpool are your Premier League champions. And two of the biggest players on the planet apply their trade in the Premier League: Kylian Mbappe at Liverpool and Erling Haaland at Manchester City. But what we're going to do is we're going to go from the bottom of the Premier League all the way to the top. We're going to have a little look at each team, see who's the manager, see maybe what's been going on over the past 10 years. We'll look at each team, ending with Liverpool, your 2031 Premier League champions. But while Liverpool are the champions, Aston Villa are going down. You can see them there in 20th place. Aston Villa, bottom of the Premier League with just 18 points. One of the worst seasons in Premier League history. The Villa are no longer managed by Dean Smith. He was relieved of his duties way back in February 2023. There's been some big names. There's been some not big names replaced him. We've seen Roberto Mancini, and now they're managed by Adam Thompson, a man who is currently playing for Leyton Orient. But Villa's time in the Premier League is over once again. They've already been relegated before in this simulation, and they came straight-ish back up. They had 2 seasons in the Championship, and next season they're going back down to the second tier of English football. And they're going to be joined there by Brentford. Brentford also had a very poor season in the Premier League. They were a bit better than Villa. They got 22 points compared to 18. But they still finished in the bottom 3. And managed by Patrick Vieira, they are going down to the Championship. But that is a familiar sight for the Bees. While in reality they're doing pretty good in the Premier League, in this simulation they've only once survived in the top flight of English football. That was in 2028 when they came 16th. Every other season they've had in the Premier League, they've been relegated. They've came up 3 times, and they're going to have to do it again next season in this 10-year into the future simulation. Our third team going down is a new boy to the Premier League, and that is Bristol City. The Robins, in the past 10 years or so, they've kind of came close-ish to the playoffs. Past couple of years not quite as good. In this simulation, they finally made it to the promised land. In 2030 they came second, and they are going straight back down. And surprisingly, in 10 years time, they're managed by a regen, Doug Milby Trufas, which is a fantastic Football Manager regen name. I mean, they just get better and better. I think the best regen in this simulation I've done though is Manchester United's, or Man UFC, Anuat Utu. It's like it's like when your gran sees you across Asda. Anyway, surviving in the Premier League, we're climbing the table, we're up to 17th. We have got Stoke. Stoke's Rugby boys are back in the Premier League, and they have survived only just. Well, there were 7 points clear of the relegation zone, and they are managed by Simone Inzaghi. Stoke returned to the top flight in 2028 by winning the Championship, and they have survived in the top flight for 3 seasons in a row. Whether they're still long throw merchants remains to be seen. 16th place we have got Leeds. Leeds hit the magic 40 point mark in 2031, and they are managed by Arne Slot, which could be offensive. The Dirty Dutchman isn't the biggest name to manage at Ellen Road. They've had some huge names since Marcelo Bielsa left in 2022. They had Rafa Benitez, who won them the Carabao Cup in 2026. He was there for nearly 5 seasons before he got the sack. And then he was replaced by Maurizio Pochettino, a huge name at Ellen Road, who got the sack after just 1 season. The big names have continued. Roberto Mancini's there again. He only lasted a full season. And now, Arne Slot is the manager in the Ellen Road dugout. Leeds haven't kicked on quite as much as you'd hope, but they have won a trophy at least. Obviously, we know they finished in the top half in their first season back on the top flight. They did that in 2025, coming 8th, and they did it in 2029, coming 9th. but those are their only top half finishes in the Premier League. So Leeds' hopeful assault on European football hasn't really taken place in this FM simulation. And they've actually finished below Burnley, who are still managed by Sean Dyche. The man just won't leave, for goodness sake. The man has been at Burnley since 2012, and he's managed to keep the Clarets in the top flight through the entirety of this simulation. Christ, hell could freeze over and Burnley would still be a Premier League club pumping long balls up to Chris Wood. I hope he's as good on FM22 as he was on FM21, because the man was an absolute cult hero. Up to 14th in the Premier League now, and we have got Wolves. Wolves getting 44 points to be the 14th best team in England, and they're managed by a Russian, Sergei Semak. The captain is Boubakary Samer, the Leicester City midfielder, and vice-captain is Pedro Neto, a man we haven't seen this season due to injury. Wolves have actually spent some time in the Championship here. They've been relegated twice in this simulation. They came 19th in 2025, they came straight back up. They were relegated again in 2028, they came straight back up. Now they've had two 14th place finishes in a row, and based on their players, it looks like the Portuguese revolution, it's far from over, but it's not quite as prominent as it once was before. At least they've got Hannibal Medri, he was the absolute boy last FM. Up to 13th, and we have got Southampton. The Saints are managed by Dejan Stankovic, it was a great Serbian midfielder. I remember that volley he scored for Inter Milan in the Champions League from about the halfway line, probably about 10 years or so ago. Absolutely brilliant. And the captain is a man who's just making his name at Southampton, Tino Livramento, signed from Chelsea this summer in reality. Our FM in 10 years time, he's a 165 grand a week player for the Saints, and he's played 27 times for his country. The Saints have actually been really good in this simulation. 13th is one of their worst finishes. They've been consistently in the top half. There's only been 2 seasons where they didn't finish in the top half. They finished in 16th in 2025, and this season 13th. They've been 6th, 10th, 6th again, 7th, 10th, 10th, 7th. The Saints have been damn good and one of the much better teams, and quite a surprise package in this simulation. But while the Saints have been a surprise package, Tottenham have been the big disappointment, or at least one of the biggest disappointments. They are 12th, 10 years into the future, managed by Jorge Sampaoli. Let's have a little look at who's been the manager at Tottenham over the years. Nuno lost his job by Christmas. They replaced him with Mancini, that friend again. He didn't last a full season. Bielsa came in, left after a year. Valverde was sacked after a year and a half. Pochettino returned, didn't win a thing, sacked. Then came Zidane, he was sacked. He resigned, sorry. Then they got Pep Guardiola, he was sacked after 2 years and a bit in charge. And now we have got Jorge Sampaoli. The only good thing about Tottenham is that their trophy drought is over, because in 2022 they won the one we all want to win, the Europa Conference League. Well done, Roberto Mancini, and well done to Tottenham Hotspur. You absolute embarrassments. I mean, look at the state of this. They've just gone down and down and down. They finished 12th in 2027, and they have done it once again in 2031. But if you thought Tottenham were disappointing, Newcastle fans, this Saudi takeover hasn't been quite as good as anticipated. They are 11th in the Premier League in 2031. They are managed by Zinedine Zidane, which would suggest things are going pretty well. But they've actually only finished in the top half twice. They finished 10th in 2024, they finished 6th in 2027, and that is as good as it's got for Amanda Staveley's Saudi Mags. One season of European football. They still haven't won any trophies. They are still trophyless since 1969, 1955 if you just want to talk about domestic trophies. But the managers they've had that's been in the dugout since they replaced Steve Bruce is absolutely incredible. Hans-Dieter Flick was the first man chosen, then they went with Unai Emery, then Roberto Martinez, they went big the next time with Diego Simeone, then it was Simone Inzaghi, then it was Luis Enrique, and now it is Zinedine Zidane. The big managers, the big players are coming to Newcastle, but they've got now to show for it. Their transfer record has been smashed. It's no longer Joe Linton. Instead it is Elijah Mariba from Real Madrid, which is quite surprising considering he's a Barcelona prodigy. But even with all their money, Newcastle, all they've got is a mid-table obscurity finish in the Premier League. I know a lot of you will be Newcastle since the FM22 release, and Christ, you can't do much worse than this. Into the top half we go, and with 50 points we have got the Toffees. Everton, managed by Julian Stefan, they haven't really kicked on massively in recent years. They've been up and down, to be honest with you. Best finish was 6th in 2025, they did it again in 2029. They've just been so inconsistent, up and down like a bloody roller coaster. That'd be quite a scary roller coaster, wouldn't it? I mean, the climb there and then the drop, I mean, would that be a safe roller coaster? I'm not sure. Let's have a look at the managers. Rafa Benitez was sacked after a year in charge. He was replaced by the hot-headed Gennaro Gattuso, who got the sack. Then came Niko Kovac, who had 6 years and a bit in charge before he resigned. Now Julian Stefan's the manager, and Everton are 10th in the Premier League. They are not really progressing at all, but at least they're in the top half. Also in the top half and doing slightly better are West Ham, who are no longer managed by David Moyes. What happened to David Moyes? Let's have a wee look. He was sacked on the 1st of December 2021. Got a feeling that probably won't happen in reality. In his place came Chris Wilder. He was sacked after just over a year, and in his place was Roberto Mancini. Christ, what an absolute Arnie slot Roberto Mancini is for Premier League jobs. He can't get enough of them. I'm going to have a little look at him actually, see how many Premier League clubs he's managed in recent years. We can see his job history at the bottom. So he left Italy in 2021. He became the Tottenham manager. He's been to West Ham. He's been to Crystal Palace. He's been to Villa. He's been to Watford. And finally Leeds. And he plans on retiring in the next month or so. Will he have time for another Premier League job? Probably not. But it won't be for the lack of trying. I'll tell you that for now. West Ham though, 9th in the Premier League. How have they been doing over the years? Not too bad, you know. They had one bad season, which was the current season where they came 16th, then it was 15th. Since then they've been pretty decent, but still no Champions League football for the Hammers. Christ, last season was mad when they nearly finished in the top 4. Finishing above West Ham as a surprise, we've got Norwich City in 8th place. They're managed by Graham Potter, the Brighton XG genius. Norwich a yo-yo club in reality. And that was true for a little bit in this simulation. They were relegated straight away, coming rock bottom, then they came straight back up, then they were relegated again, then they came straight back up. Since winning the championship in 2025, Norwich have been bloody okay. They came 17th a couple of times, so there has been a couple of relegation battles, but they came 10th in 2027, and this season they've only gone and came 8th. That is absolutely amazing. One of the best finishes in the history of Norwich Football Club. Christ, 10 years time is going to be crazy. Norwich in the top half, I will eat my hat. Into 7th place, and while Graham Potter might be in 8th with Norwich, in 7th are his former club, Brighton. Brighton, one of the stars of the season so far in reality, and in 10 years time, they're in Europe, and they are managed by Vincent Kompany, the man who's got his own statue outside of the Etihad, and at Brighton, he's been the manager for over 6 years. Graham Potter left after 4 and a bit. He left on the 25th of November 2023. He was replaced by Steven Gerrard, who left after a year. And now we've got Vincent Kompany in charge. It looks like Brighton have been great during this simulation. Christ, last season in 2030, they did even better than 7th. They finished 6th. Brighton have consistently been challenging for European football. Maybe they've got a striker now. Let's have a little look at who they've got up front. They've got Emmanuel Lirio and Matthias Arezzo. Well, Matthias Arezzo hasn't really been banging them in, and neither's this Portuguese regen. Now, well, things are going great for Brighton, who are competing for European football season after season. 10 years' time is a pretty mad time in the Premier League, and finishing above Brighton, I mean, there's a canny big gap now from Brighton to everyone else. We're into the Big Six, which no longer includes Tottenham based on this. We've got in 6th place Leicester City, 68 points on the board, and they are still managed by Brendan Rodgers. He's been the manager for more than 12 years. Obviously, we know he won the FA Cup in 2021, but he's won even more trophies since then. They won the Europa League in 2022, they did it again in 2026, 2030 they won the Europa Conference League, which wasn't much to shout about, and in 2030 he won his second FA Cup. It's been a great few years for Leicester City, with Brendan Rodgers still not managing to get them in the Champions League. I mean, other than, obviously they won the Europa League, so that qualified them. But in the Premier League, they still can't get higher than 5th. There is very much a glass ceiling stopping the Foxes for breaking into that top 4. Next we've got Arsenal. They are in 5th, well shy of the top 4 teams of English football, but the Gunners back in Europe with 70 points, and they are managed by Julen Lopetegui. What happened to Mikel Arteta? Let's have a little look. He actually spent a long time at Arsenal. He was sacked after nearly 8 years in charge, and in 8 years that only saw him win one more trophy. Obviously he won the FA Cup in 2020, he repeated that feat in 2026, and then he won a Community Shield, which, as we all know, doesn't count. Lopetegui won Arsenal's first European Cup. They won the Europa League in 2029. And as for the Premier League, they've even been able to make it back into the Champions League. They finished 4th in 2025, and they did it again in 2029. Arsenal are suddenly back playing consistent football in the top 6 of the Premier League. Into the top 4 we go now, and in 4th place we've got Manchester City, which is quite a surprise to be honest with you. They are managed by Julian Nagelsmann, the captain is Erling Haaland, the vice captain is Ruben Dias. What happened to Pep Guardiola? He left in 2023 as expected. He was replaced by Bielsa. Bielsa won 2 Premier League titles and a Club World Cup, which actually means that Pep must have won the Champions League. Or maybe he didn't. Have City still not won the Champions League? Dearie me, let's have a little look. Bielsa was replaced by Klopp. Klopp didn't win a thing in more than 3 years in charge, which is pretty embarrassing. Klopp was sacked on the 20th of February 2029. Jason Wilcox took interim charge, and he actually managed to win Manchester City's first Champions League. In 2029, Jason Wilcox did it. And now he's unemployed. That's what he got for his troubles, unemployment. He's been replaced by Nagelsmann, who has since won a couple of Carabao Cups, a Super Cup and a Club World Cup. No league titles for Manchester City since 2025. After an early spell of dominance, they won the title obviously in 2021 as we know. They did it in 2022, then they won back to back in 24 and 25. Since then, they haven't been the champions of England. Speaking of teams that haven't been champions of England, we move on to Manchester United. And the bad news is, somehow they are still managed by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They've at least won some trophies though, as Ole managed to win the Champions League in 2023 and 2027. On top of that, they won the Carabao Cup in 2024, but when it comes to the Premier League, Man United still haven't been able to do what they used to do back in the Sir Alex Ferguson era. They still haven't won the title since Fergie's final season in 2013. They've had a few second place finishes, which are keeping Ole in the job, but the Ole out campaign still isn't working, and Man United are still not the champions of the Premier League. We go into second place now, and that is Chelsea. They got 88 points to finish 3 points shy of Liverpool, and they are managed by Gabriel Milano. That's the name being given to Massimiliano Allegri, obviously Juventus they haven't got the rights for on this game. Who have been the Chelsea managers through the years? I mean, did it take 2 minutes for Thomas Tuchel to get the sack? Nah. End of this season. Didn't last very long at all. Zinedine Zidane got 2 years before he resigned. Now Allegri's been in charge since 2024, and while he hasn't won the Premier League, he has at least won 7 trophies. Although one of them was the Community Shield, so that's not that good. But they did win a Champions League, they won that in 2030. But Chelsea, despite their riches, despite the investment of Lukaku, the Havertzes, your Chilwells and whoever else they've bought in the recent years, they still haven't been able to become Premier League champions in recent years. But the Premier League champions in 2031 are Liverpool. Not only that, they are 6-time winners in a row. They won it in 2026. Every season since then, Liverpool have been top of the pile. It is a glorious period for the Reds, who are managed by Steven Gerrard. It is the stuff of dreams for Liverpool fans. Trent's the captain, lifting all the trophies, Kylian Mbappe's scoring all the goals, and Steven Gerrard is the man pulling the strings. Jurgen Klopp left, he was sacked no less, on the 9th of November 2024. He was immediately replaced by Steven Gerrard. Steven Gerrard has been in charge for more than 6 years. He's won 6 Premier League titles. He's won the Premier League title in every season he's had, and he's also won 12 cups. He won the Champions League in 2026, meaning he's won it as a player and as a manager, and Liverpool are quite frankly unstoppable. Let's have a little look at the team that is dominating English football. They've got Trent there, they've got Tariq Lamptey playing left back strangely, Eduardo Camavinga, Jamal Musiala, Kylian Mbappe. They've even got Trevor Chalobah and Emile Smith-Rowe. It doesn't look like actually that much of a star-studded team, but when you break it down, this is a Liverpool team that is dominating English football in a way that we have never seen before in the history of the Premier League. In 10 years' time, Liverpool will be the champions of England, and they'll have been doing it for 6 years in a row. We will leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Elecspo, and until next time, we will see you around.